Hey everyone, happy Easter weekend. Hope you're enjoying lockdown. I got Scott Willis here with me. What's up, man?
How's it going, my man?
Good, good. We're doing a special episode because it's Easter and all. The post-roll, we're looking at vice stocks, the booze, the smokes, and of course, the pot. So yeah, you know what the classic strategy is that in times of recession, when things are banged out, what you do is you own these vice stocks, so typically alcohol, tobacco, because people tend to consume that more. Scott, you want to talk through, just the overarch there? We're going to cover beer and tobacco. Maybe we can talk through the dynamics of beer, because we got some good data here.
Yeah, so I just say we got on this topic in the first place because, everyone's stuck at home. We hear all this news about people rushing out to the dispensaries to stockpile. So that got our ears up. And then you also, if you look at in recessions, that's a low ticket price item, right? To buy beer or cigarettes. So people kind of default from buying like fancy clothes and whatever restaurants, they'll buy that stuff. So generally sales holds up really well. We'll take you through that. So if you look at, we decided to look at some of the beer companies.
So Scott, one thing, and I'll just pop in here, right? So this is slightly different in the sense that this recession is different because people aren't at home locked down, right? So we're seeing the stockpiling, and maybe in past recessions you haven't seen that element of it, right? So it is slightly different, especially for cannabis, right?
I'd say it's even more positive, yeah, because when you're stuck at home, there's just a higher level of demand. People are consuming more. It's not just the stockpiling because you're stuck at home. So it's going to amplify the positive effects for these guys this time around.
100%. I can definitely say for myself, obviously there's a stockpile. We've all stockpiled. But yeah. I'm working down that stockpile real quick. Booze,
I'm like, that stockpile is going to last me 3 weeks, and then a week later, I'm back. I'm buying more.
100%. So let's have a look at beer. Give us the example from the last recession on beer.
Yeah, so first we looked at what happened in the 2008 recession to some of the beer companies, and we picked the two that did the best, okay? So if you look at them versus the S&P 500, we have Anheuser-Busch and Boston Beer Company, that's Sam Adams. So they both outperformed the S&P handily in the last recession. They didn't go down as much, and then they went up a lot more in the year, 2 years afterwards. So it seems like this thesis we have on that people are going to the lower ticket items of beer. If you look at liquor, it doesn't work as well because they give up that high-priced bottle of vodka, and they just go to the cheap beer. And so that seems to be kind of a place to hide out in recessions because these guys don't go down as much and they bounce back quicker, and you're seeing that in this chart here.
You don't see sales go down versus the rest of the economy all goes down. There's that data. And secondarily, they outperform the stock, so it works. So yeah, let's go to tobacco. Cigarettes.
Yeah, so let's see. Does this work the same in tobacco? We looked at Philip Morris and British American Tobacco. So their sales basically grew right through the recession, like there wasn't even a recession. So boom, check that off the list. And then how the stocks do. The stocks also, they went down not as much as the S&P, and they bounced back much harder in the next 2-3 years after. So that worked as well. So it looks like that whole thesis on beer and tobacco really held up then. And we think it still is probably going to hold up now, especially with COVID is making it even more acute in a positive way.
Yeah. And I just tweeted something, but it's worth looking at in terms of, there is an interplay here between smoking and COVID, right? So if you're a cigarette smoker and if you're unfortunately and you get unfortunate complications from COVID, you're in a far worse place. So there could be something there, but bottom line is vice stocks are vice stocks. You've lost your job. Man, the first thing you're doing is you're not a resume builder, man. You're pounding some booze, you're smoking some cigarettes, taking
you're
stock.
Stressed. You have your addictive stick. You're going to smoke more of those. Unfortunately, like people keep saying it kills you, it does this, it does that. Sales are going to fall. Well, it's addictive, and these companies have done amazingly well over the past few decades. So not going to change, but that is a risk, right? If the government starts talking and doing public service announcements about how you're at higher risk of dying from COVID if you're smoking, that's going to have a negative effect. So far, no one's been talking about it, but if that becomes more of a focus for in the public eye, then that could dampen sales a bit.
For sure. So then the last piece of this, when we think it's important. So in terms of, let's look at now. So in the previous 08, 09 crisis, we only had two vice stocks, right? We had we had booze. So you had the beer companies and obviously the liquor companies as well. The beer did better, and then you had tobacco. So when people wanted to hide in these sort of vice names, there were really only two buckets to play. Since then, obviously, we've added an entire new category, which is cannabis. Scott, so we've created. We've said, listen, we've identified 2 cannabis Canadian names and 2 cannabis US names. You want to talk about at least those 2? Like, which names have we identified to put into this horse race?
Yeah, so on the Canadian side, it's Village Farms is in the bucket, and then APHA. So Village Farms, for one, because it's the lowest growing cost in Canada for a greenhouse, so you got to put them in there. APHA is not far behind; they're second lowest, and then APHA also has a big cash balance. That's what you need to see here, so they can weather any storm, and they'll keep growing their brands and kind of their brand equity in the eyes of the consumer. And so those are the 2 places that we'd hide out in Canada. And then in the US, you have the juggernaut TRUL, most profitable cannabis company in North America. Yeah. And then you have CURA, which is also very large in lots of states. They're a more aggressive pick because they're in more states than TRUL, and they're acquiring aggressively. So their growth is going to be bigger, but they don't have that profitability yet because they're just spending all this money on growth. So you get 2 of the best, right? You get the profitability and the some growth, then you get the all-out growth. These guys have been big enough, CURA, that they've been able to raise money when they need to, so liquidity is not as much of a concern there.
So we have these 2 clear buckets here. We got the Canadian cannabis names, U.S. cannabis names, and we've also got beer stocks. We've got the 2 beer stocks, and we've got the 2 tobacco stocks. So what we've done is now we've created a chart looking at it from the Corona crisis, looking at how the vice stocks have done. Have they performed better than the market? That's the indicator here, right? So let's have a look here. Vice stocks versus the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 since February 20th, that's when this whole thing started to unravel, is down 17%. So let's look at the two sectors that have done better. So beer is down 15%. So that's our 2 beer stocks. And tobacco is down 11.7%. So the traditional vice sectors have worked. So the challenge is the cannabis stocks haven't, right? So Canadian cannabis down 35% and U.S. cannabis is down 19%. So that's kind of a
that's where there's nuances, right? There's some there's things going on in Canada that make it a tougher environment than the U.S. So that kind of explains why Canada's been down so much. So, it doesn't always work if there's some macro things going on that are more powerful than just consumer demand picking up. That's why you have Canada underperforming.
Yeah, and these are 2 stocks as well. So I'm going to switch to another chart because obviously, we just picked 2 stocks. Let's highlight what we call the best of vice, top of the class vice stocks. So this is probably a more indicative chart. What it shows here is that Boston Beer, Sam Adams, is basically flat. Scott, that's wild, right? Flat.
Yeah, that stock's been doing really well. People like it.
Really well. TRUL is down 8%. Again, the market is down 17%. So those TRULers, those that own TRUL through this crisis have done better than the market. That's actually saying something, right?
Yeah. And then what's the third one there? We got the tobacco name, British American Tobacco. Also outperforming by 5%, nothing to sneeze at.
No. So it's down 13, market's down 17. So these are like you're seeing at least best in class. They are working relative to the market. And as you pointed out too, right, in the earlier charts, they don't necessarily need to be, in absolute terms up, but we'll start to see a level of outperformance of this going forward if it holds like 08, 09, right?
Yeah, so it seems like there's an investment theme here. You can kind of hide out in these guys, but even now you could buy them, and they should be doing better than S&P on the rebound whenever that comes, when we all start going outside again. So just based on, as we worked through this process, going through these charts, we ended up with these 3 look like kind of the best way to maybe generate some outsized returns versus the market.
100%. So we're going to put this in a Grizzle Vice portfolio bucket. So 3 names, easy. Everyone can get access to these names. You don't need to have an ETF. But TRUL, Sam Adams, and British American Tobacco, which we're not advocating people own. Bottom line is, we can say, listen, you can do it with at least 2 of those, right? You can do it with cannabis and beer.
Yeah.
So that's the Vice episode. Vice stocks. We're bunkered down. We're drinking. We're smoking. And wow, smoking pot at least, not cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, that's like my dad's stuff, man. Dude, always a pleasure. Happy Easter, guys.
Peace.